clearly by our Maharshi. In many of the discussions, the lectures in Sky Lectures, we might have come across, most of the times we come across the words Pancha Tanmatra or Tanmatra is different. Even in philosophical discussions or many topics, the Tanmatra is discussed and referred to. Is it very clear how it functions? What is the significance? What are the human values associated to this Tanmatra? So these things have been clearly explained, simplified by our Maharshi. So from the explanations provided by Maharshi in this book, we will try to cover or recapitulate our understanding on Tanmatra or the Pancha Tanmatra, the five Tanmatras. Let us look at the first, the origin or where it starts from. Tanmatra is a Sanskrit word with the two root words combined, tan and matra. Tan is subtle or very thin kind of thing, and matra is the element. Tanmatra or subtle thing. Basically, there is no such physical thing or element, but it is a subtle thing. That's when in English equivalent is a physical subtle thing. It is intangible in nature. In fact, we can interpret in English terms as kinds of transformation phenomena. The transformation phenomena that is happening in the universal system, that is Tanmatra. And there are five such transformations happening. That's the reason why it is named as Pancha Tanmatra. The basic transformations happening are Pancha Tanmatra, five in number. What are those? As per Sanskrit terminologies, those have been named as Sparsha, Shabda, Rupa or Drishti, and Rasa and Gandha. These are the origin of Tanmatra as explained in the Sanskrit literature. This further has been simplified and explained by Maharshi as pressure, sound, light or vision, taste, and smell. So these are the five Tanmatra. We are going to look at it. What is the function, how it functions, what is its significance, and how the human values are associated with this. Before we go to the philosophical aspect, these are all philosophical aspects to understand. We will just, it will be easier to understand the examples from the materialistic world with the help of science or scientific devices. It will be easy to perceive what actually we are talking about, the Tanmatra or the transformations. First aspect of Tanmatra is pressure, what we uh, covered. First one is pressure. From the devices, what we see in our daily life, for example, a BP meter, everyone is aware of this BP meter. This is a conversion of pressure perception or pressure sensation is being converted into electrical signal, and that electrical signal is calibrated, is giving some reading in terms of digits 80, 90, 140. So this is nothing but a pressure or a diaphragm kind of thing which has the ability to sense the pressure, and that sensed pressure is converted into electrical signal. Same way, the tire pressure, what we are seeing, this tire pressure is getting converted into a signal. That signal can be measured locally in high-end, high-branded luxury brand cars. Even that signal is on the can be seen on the dashboard. It is nothing but conversion of pressure signal to electrical signal or pressure sensation to electrical signal. Another example, using the same pressure perception, higher the level, the pressure is more, lower the level, pressure is low. Same the fuel tank levels or oil tank levels. These are the devices which we use based on the pressure perception. The signal is used as per our requirement. Pressure effect is sensed and converted to electrical signal. This is the transformation of pressure perception into signals what we require or used. This is just an example of pressure perception. Now, going to the second aspect of Tanmatra, the sound wave perception or sound transformation. The simplest example of a sound wave getting converted to electrical signal is mic, or what we are even now, what I am talking is getting converted, the sound is getting converted to electrical signal and getting communicated all around. This is the most common example we have come across. The other usage of sound getting converted, like what we used in the sonar waves or the ultrasonic waves, signals are used for using signal wave is sent and signal wave is received. The time receive and emission and reception, that is converted into distance or object somewhere, and that object we are using for measuring the distance or measuring the object, or submarines seeing the object, or even ultrasonic. So these are all usage of sound wave getting converted or transformed into other perception, electrical signal getting used or interpreted in any manner. This is the second example, second aspect of a sound wave transformation. Let us go to the third one, which is the light perception or vision or sight. This is the third one. This again, we come across this simple things. Photo sensors, we have been seeing things almost everywhere where we see the gates for operating gates or alarms or electrical signals are initiated based on trigger of or sensing of electrical. So whenever light falls on a sensor, so that is the one which has the ability to sense or detect the photons, photosensors. This feature is converted. Once the light is sensed, it generates electrical signal, and that is giving converted to other signals and other usages what we need. For example, the most simplest common example is what we have on our smartphones. Every one of us having a smartphone, and this smartphone, the screen on the that has a optical sensor. When there is light, the brightness is increased. When there is no light, brightness is decreased. So this is the simplest example of sensation of light. That is what we see on our mobile phones or screens. Basically, a third perception of conversion of light phenomenon. Now, these are all the examples from the materialistic world. Let us go back to our basics, the tanmatras, what are happening, governing in the universal phenomena or with the human perceptions. These transformations are the first tanmatra, pressure. This is perceived by the skin, and this is attributed to Akash particle. Akash particle has the association with pressure function, and this is sensed by skin. If we go back to, or how this relation, if we go back to the basics, the postulations from Maharshi, what he explained is self-compressive pressure force results in Akash. That is the origin of Akash. How Akash got evolved from the self-compressive, from the absolute, has its self-compressive, self-quivering property that generates the energy particles which are spinning at a high speed, and that is the dynamic state of nature. And this is what Akash in its purest form has the pressure perception or pressure transformation. When this Akash particle gets associated with the more Akash particles, the formation is getting changed from Akash with a combination of others. It is forming the second or the little denser media or denser medium. That denser medium is air. And this air is again connected with or responsible for the transformation of sound. The sound perception is associated with air medium, and it is perceived by humans through the sense organ ears. Then the subsequent heavier component with combinations of Akash and fire, further we get is fire. And this fire perception or the fire Panchabhuta, that is connected or transformed with the transformation of light. The this is perceived by eyes. The perception organ for humans for sensing light is eyes, and this is coming or associated with the Panchabhuta element fire. The fourth element or the fourth component of Panchabhuta, water. This attributes to the concept or sense of taste. The taste perception is functioned. The functioning organ for taste perception is tongue. This tanmatra is associated with the water element from Panchabhuta. Maybe having a question like how these are associations. Scientifically, the secretion of saliva from the gland dissolves the solid. Only after that, the taste is realized. The taste cannot be realized for any solid without liquid or without saliva. If there is no saliva secreted, there is no water, then the taste is not felt or perceived by the tongue. So the fifth element, the earth, this is attributed for the smell perception or gandha perception, and the sensing organ for that is nose. So if we summarize this, pressure perception from akash, sound perception from air, light perception from fire, taste perception from water, and smell perception from earth. The panchabhutas on the right side of the screen what you are seeing, and the PANCHA TANMATRAs, which are on the left, are associated, and the organs, sensing organs, or the jnana indriyas for sensing these perceptions are skin, ears, eyes, tongue, and nose, the human body. These five elements or panchabhutas, akash, air, fire, water, and earth, are attributed for these sensations of pressure, sound, light, taste, and smell. This is for the human beings. Now let us look at the transformation process discussed earlier, like what we saw in the earlier slide here. Can this perception be possible without this energy component? If I don't have this energy component, whether the screen, I have the light, source of light is there, and the phone screen is on, it is the receiving device object. Light is the source of light, and this is the object or a sensing object is there. Whether this sensing object will be able to detect the sense of presence of light? No, until unless it is powered on. So power is essential or energy is essential. Without energy, this cannot be sensed. That is the key point I was trying to tell. These phones or anything, any sensing device, or even in the previous earlier ones, all these sensing devices need energy. Now, coming to the point, energy is key element in sense perception, whether it is the metallic device or in the human aspect. Sensing or sense perception will work only when there is energy. So the energy, we will replace the word or we'll change the word in place of energy. For humans, we will call it life energy. The sense perception, sense organs, life energy is required. Without that, it is not possible. And in the case of humans, the mind function, that is also important. These are the things which are associated or linked with each other. Without this life energy component, nothing works. This we will coming from the source, nothing but biomagnetism or biomagnetism with the life force energy. This is responsible for the transformation process. Only then the Panchatan Matras are having this ability to perceive the pressure, sound, light, taste, and smell effect. What is the source of this life energy? Biomagnetism. This concept is again explained by Maharshi in a simplified manner. What is that? Biomagnetism, it is nothing but it is the energy that is coming due to the spinning of energy particles, life energy particles. When it is spinning energy particles are in the absolute space, we call it magnetism. In living beings, the spinning of life energy particles, we call it biomagnetism. So only and only after spending of biomagnetism, the feeling of perception of pressure, sound, light, taste, and smell is felt. The key point here is sense perceptions can function not only with the sense organs, not with the mind, or not with the object from itself. It can function only with the, if the life energy is not there, it cannot function. Though basically the summary here, the key message from Mercy is sensory perceptions are not from the object. This is cognized by consumption of biomagnetism. The object, it is giving a smell, or the object has a taste, but that taste is perceived or that smell is perceived only and only when biomagnetism or life energy from the human being is consumed. So this is the key point to go ahead with our next concept, or to understand better on the significance and importance of Panchatanmatra with biomagnetism. Without, as in the case of devices, without energy, nothing functions. Same way, without this, nothing functions. Then where is, what is the key here? Spending biomagnetism. This, of course, we understood that yes, biomagnetism is necessary and it has to be spent. But the spending of biomagnetism within the tolerable levels, that is the key. With that, the polarity of biological cells are unaffected. As long as the spending is within the tolerable levels, the polarity of the biological cells remains within the tolerable range, and that is the sensation called pleasure. The moment the levels of spending are much more than available, that is called excessive spending of biomagnetism, that it leading the tolerance levels of the physical body, then the polarity of the cells are affected, or kind of short circuit taking place. That leads to pain. That is the first stage. Then the second stage will lead to correspondingly further disease and further complete loss of biomagnetism. So these are the different stages of exceeding the consumption than available resources of biomagnetism. Consumption of biomagnetism is inevitable as long as human being is alive. Any activity, even sitting idle, the heartbeat, that is consuming certain biomagnetism or certain life force energy. But the difference comes in production, consumption, and conservation. So these are the three things which are to be monitored or observed or controlled to understand the impact, consequence of biomagnetism. Based on the production, consumption, conservation, and not only that, the quality of life energy particles of biomagnetism, these are, of course, contributed from the sexual vital fluid, SVF, which is the most important aspect, which is storehouse, generator, and circulator of biomagnetism across the body. Okay, now coming to the case. Production and production is more, consumption is less. What is the effect? We have enough biomagnetism and consumption is less. That is what is the activity, or excess biomagnetism leads to the avenues for consumption of biomagnetism, or release of biomagnetism, or look for avenues of pleasure to, to discharge or release the excess biomagnetism. If we see the curve here, just a simple curve, I try to put it. Red one is production at the infant stage or at the childhood stage. With certain quantity of biomagnetism, the life starts not from zero. With certain quantity of life, it starts with biomagnetism. And consumption is also at a lower level. The yellow line say, okay, it varies, keeping on the various activities. When this is at the childhood state. When adulthood state, the production of biomagnetism reaches to a peak and there it stabilizes. There, the difference comes between production and consumption. Childhood, the activities are low, consumption less, production is increasing. Then the activity comes to release to go with exercises. People go running, people do sports. Children are more active, more, we say they are much more active than adults. So, this is how the consumption to drive to consume or drive to spend energy starts. Then gradually at certain point of time it stabilizes. It's like a product life cycle. Similarly, that can be compared with human biomagnetism or energy cycle. It stabilizes, and after stabilization at old age there is no further production or there is no further increase. The only possibility is only reduction or decrease, declining, and at one point of time it becomes complete zero. Same way, consumption also, as the production is reduced or stored, the green shaded portion I tried to show it, the conserved energy or the difference between production and consumption. If consumption is high, it overtakes this, and that is definitely a state of pain when there is reduced stock of biomagnetism. And when there is more stock of biomagnetism, that leads the quality life, or that leads the individual leads the for the individual to do his activity in a proper manner. This just to try to put a simplified concept what we are trying to see. The middle area where we have excess energy, that is leading to spending of biomagnetism through jnana indriyas and karma indriyas. Jnana indriyas, the five sense organs: eyes, ears, tongue, nose, and skin, and the five karma indriyas: hands, legs, mouth, and the two excretory organs. These 5 plus 5 are used for spending and for deriving pleasure, not for the sake of spending. For the sake of deriving pleasure, these avenues are used for, or these avenues are used for spending, which results in pleasure. That is how the purpose of or the expectations of human is to draw pleasure from these 10 indriyas. These perceptions, pain or pleasure, quality of sensations, are referred as cognition, experience, and discrimination. The energy waves from the experience are again stored as imprints in the genetic center. Genetic center is most important because whatever the perceived experiences are, first of all, it is cognition, recognized, then experience, then discrimination. We differentiate that this activity is leading to pain, this activity is leading to pleasure. So that kind of perception or experience is stored in the genetic center. Once it is stored in the genetic center, that will be giving the feedback to the individual to go with such kind of activity. And not only with the same individual, that is stored in the genetic center, it goes carried on to the other generations. That is how the generations, they get used to or get the perception of getting that activity, even if it is not taught, but it is picked up from the hereditary imprints to do any particular kind of activity which is inherited from the genetic center. So this is the most one of the key important factors. The imprints which are stored in the genetic center will get passed on to next generation. So before indulging in any pleasure or any activities involving the indriyas, pleasures, that can get carried to next generation. So, spending biomagnetism is the most crucial aspect. We have to be responsible in, or the responsible way of spending. That is the philosophy of life. If we say, put it in, yes, spending biomagnetism is inevitable, but where you are spending or how you are spending, that is the responsible way, or the responsible way of spending. That is nothing but the philosophy of life. There is social pressure in spending, biomagnetism. This is what is running the world. We can say, put it in a simple way. When we see the consumer products, variety of brands, these, if you see the advertisements of these products, the high-end products or brands which are trying to push or influence viewers, these advertisements are nothing but these panchatanmatra perceptions, pressure or touch perception. The garment or textile industry, fabric industry, mattress selling people, cosmetics or skincare products. Even a shaving razor will have the tagline smooth, soft, or these kind of words which are for the pressure perception or touch perception. For the sound perception, various music devices we come across, they claim to have audio quality that gives a pleasure to your ears. Okay, even some sounds are created with signature tunes saying that, yes, this is the one which gives pleasure to your ear. Various music forms, people have a different perceptions or different choices based on their karma indriya or based on their energy levels. Some go for classical, some go for rock, some go for jazz. So these are all forms of pleasure being drawn using the karna indriya or the ear indriya for the sound perception, light or sense of vision. Same way, many things or things which are giving pleasure to see. So that is what people choose. People go for scenic beauty places to just derive pleasure from seeing. Even there are now the trend is even changed. Not only even seeing, people are deriving pleasure even by showing others. They put their status in the social media just to show others. That is again a sense perception being used for in a different manner, not for deriving pleasure for yourself, but showing others and deriving pleasures. There are even the most opposite kind of thing. There are people who are sadists who draw pleasure in seeing others in pain. That is the extreme case of perception of seeing things or what you see or how you see. Smell aspect, the again the words used by many product sellers: aroma, fragrance, food items, cosmetic, floral collections. These are all marketed, these are all aimed to claim or give the person will derive pleasure from those perception. The smell perception is targeted for the human to derive pleasure. Taste. For taste, we don't need to give any example. Even from a small child to old person, the preference, everyone knows that yes, taste dominate the intake what we are taking. The taste is the one what we give priority to or give preference to. All over the world, food or importance on food, that is the one which gives or which is claimed to give pleasure. These are the food that we should that is provided by us will give you pleasure. That is how the how food industries they claim and they push that yes, your taste buds or your tongue, that sense perception is can be satisfied with product. So overall, if we extract the entire whatever we have discussed, this can be summarized or this can be captured in a small couplet which is mentioned by Maharshi through the poem from Saint Thiruvalluvar. The poem goes like this: the confused find vain things worthy, and life devoid of merit and miserable. Knowledge is to research the inner qualities and not conclude from the exterior ones. Overcome misconception of pain by realizing nature and the goals in life. Just 3 lines, but the message is worth remembering the whole life. Humans are confused. The selection of things are based on exterior quality, as they are ignorant of the inherent worthiness and ending up with misery. That is the complete message. Humans are confused. We are selecting things based on what we feel, what we look externally, not internally. as we are ignorant the inner values, and result is it is leading to pain or misery in life. So running after things of sensory pleasures instead of pain is a misconception. The another point is we think that it is a pleasure for us and we think this is a pain for us. That is a misconception. Before taking the decision for a pleasure, it or rejection of pain has to be understood or has to be realized with more knowledge or more skillful knowledge. That is what we have to select, which is a pleasure in the long run, not the pleasure in the short run. It can be a pain in the near or short run. Immediate experience could be pain. For example, simplest example, I am eating a bland food or food without any spices. It is not giving a good tasty thing. It is giving me pain. Or practice of simplified exercises, regular meditation, morning getting up morning and doing exercises, attending my yoga classes at 5 a.m. is giving pain for me, or I'm feeling pain. But that is the misconception of pain. You will derive pleasure in the long run. But when not attending, sleeping, or you're doing other activities which are missing, which are giving pleasures in the short run, are the misconception which can lead to pain in the long run. So this is just what the key summary or heavy subject that has been taught by Maharshi or that has been conveyed by Maharshi in selecting what we are trying to do. If I'll just go with a lighter version or a more similar kind of example, just to lighten the or give a more fun side of example. Person was walking and going to school or activity or college. He was getting the pain or every day walking, and he wanted to ease, went for a cycle. And after cycling, he was feeling pain, then or feeling the difficulty, went for two wheeler. From two wheeler, he went for four wheeler. Two wheeler sitting is also painful on the this one. For went for a four wheeler, and finally four wheeler going to office sitting, he gained fat or he gained obesity. Then he started a gym, and after joining a gym, the gym guy told him, you do cycling or run on the treadmill. So you see the pain of what the initial pain was perceived or misconception of pain. That I just try to give an example of misconception of pain. Overcome the misconception of pain by realizing nature and the goals in life. Understand the ultimate goal of life. This can be overcome by realizing the goal of life, that is what is devised by nature. Attain the knowledge. For this, we have to attain the knowledge to realize the art of maintaining balance of biomagnetism, that is balance of biomagnetism between amongst production, consumption, and conservation. The moment it is balanced, that is called as peace. So we have to go one step above pleasure, the state of peace, when there is a perfect balance of production, consumption, and conservation, that is called peace. So for this, Maharshi has simplified the techniques. When we say, okay, production has to be higher and consumption has to be lower, if that is the case, but production, certain things are limited by nature, the natural process of production of biomagnetism from the food or certain intake, those energy levels from nature, from air, whatever we are taking, if we, without any efforts, it has its limit or there is a particular level. Beyond that cannot be done. Similarly, for consumption, there are certain avenues where consumption has to be there, that cannot be avoided. However, how to increase the conservation, production, increase production to some extent, reduce consumption to some extent, and increase the conservation, and not just quality quantity with quality. So for these things, Marcy has given simplified and most valuable important techniques. For example, techniques like Sky practices of lamp gauging, mirror gauging, kayakalpa exercises. These are the techniques or these are the practices taught in sky that will enrich the life energy. For enrichment of life energy or biomagnetism, these techniques are predominantly helpful. Meditation practices, all sorts of meditation practices, we have various meditation practices. All these are to specially harmonize the life energy. If we take particularly pancha indriya meditation, this pancha indriya meditation is the one which regulates the pancha tanmatra. The today's topic is to understand pancha tanmatra. These pancha tanmatras which we try to say that yes, these are the avenues or these are the points where human biomagnetism is consumed. For this consumption of Panchtanmatra, what is the resolution? You have to follow Panchaindriya meditation. That will help us in regulating the Panchatanmatra. Similarly, that another form of meditation taught by Marci, Nityananda meditation. By doing Nityananda meditation, the entire biomagnetism or the life energy is circulated properly, maintains a harmonization of circulation in the body. So this is again another form of, there are other, even the Turyatita meditation, Turya meditation, Agna meditation, all these meditations, Shanti meditation, these are all for maintaining the energy levels at respective levels as desired. These are special techniques for Pancha Tanmatra controlling is Panchendriya meditation. The other forms like silence. It is not just reducing your consumption, but that will enrich or enrich the quality of biomagnetism. Introspection. Again, how or where revenues, where we are spending from our actions, thought, words. These are the avenues where we are spending. So that needs to be moderated or balanced. So these are the practices which have been taught or which have been conceptualized by Maharshi for enhancing the quality, quantity of conservation of biomagnetism, which will ensure a peaceful lifestyle. Only after attaining physical and mental peace. Once we say yes, peace can be attained, we call it as a peaceful state when the balance of production, consumption, and conservation is maintained. Beyond, after attaining the peaceful state, then comes the individual will be interested or individual will be motivated for study the qualities of nature or divinity. He will pursue further towards understanding the divinity. And once he reaches that stage, that is the stage of ecstasy, or that produces the feeling of ecstasy when we gain knowledge about divinity or understand the features of nature and divinity. So, to understand the role and importance of Tanmatra, one has to carefully decide the basis of selection, what we are selecting, how we are consuming, or what are the avenues we are spending our biomagnetism, or which tanmatra, which pancha, out of the tanmatra, which tanmatra perception is being controlled or regulated. So that is what is the governing. Panch tanmatra are governing the sensory organs in deriving pleasure. If that has to be, or that is to be balanced, that is to be maintained, or that is to be regulated, then the quality, quantity of biomagnetism conserved is enhanced, and that will lead to state of attaining peace. Further, we can go for state of ecstasy. There is another couplet from poet Thiruvallur. This is again highlighted by Maharshi. Name and fame are theirs who diligently use their sense of touch, taste, sight, sound, and smell. So the Panchatanmatras, if diligently used, so the one what we are trying to say earlier, entire summary of that is if a person is diligently using or responsible in using the sensory organs Panchatanmatra, the perceptions of this Panchatanmatra in using the sensory organs, then he will be earning name and fame. So that is the summary. Overall, we wanted to convey, we wanted to discuss what Maharshi has summarized, giving importance to Panchatanmatras. Use these Panchatanmatras in a responsible way. For example, when we see traffic signal, we say follow the signals, drive safely and reach home happily. So that can be interpreted in a different way, a similar way. We can say that yes, the Panchatanmatras are the signals or sensory perceptions to be followed diligently to reach the goal of life in a blissful manner or attain peace and ecstasy in life. That is the goal of life. Be blessed by the divine. Be blessed by the divine.